Well, good morning, everyone. I was up here looking for the computer screen. That threw me off for a little bit, but I'm good to go. What a nice week this has been. Really nice week. I want to thank the directors of AMSEC for the invite to speak on behalf of the American Board. And I'm just really enthused with all of the information that I've acquired this week. I'm anxious to take it back to my workplace. AMSEC University really has a bounce in my step. Everything that I've learned about that, I think that's really a bright future for more education and more learning. So a lot of good stuff this week that I've learned. The week started out for me. I was able to bring my wife, who also is a perfusionist, and my daughter, and we went down to the edge of where the bay is. And the first day that we were there, I saw a dolphin. It was swimming between two boats. I had no idea what was going on, but when they were finished, they sprayed water on top of one of the boats, and there was a mat, and then the dolphin jumped up onto the mat, and they wrapped it up. And this is a picture from my iPhone. It's not the best picture. You might be able to see in the center, right in here, a little bit of the dolphin. But they put this thing in it, and they took off. And I guess I looked it up on YouTube. It was really cool. I guess they used this somehow with the Navy SEALs to do something. But we were at the right place at the right time. But really started out for a nice week for us. What I'd like to do for you this morning with the time that we have, I wanted to go over three things about the American Board, give you some updates with it, but I wanted to talk to you about who the American Board is, who's on it right now, a little bit about our background, what it is involved if you'd like to volunteer to be on the American Board, which is another area is well needed and well served, and then what we've done moving forward into the future. So those are the three things I wanted to go over. The American Board's origination really is from AMSEC, so it's nice that we're here to talk each year about the American Board and to provide some updates. But it started back in 1975 as a way of branching off and specializing in test development. And we've done that, and I believe that we have a valid and reliable measure that we continue to provide for the community of perfusion. It's comprised of 8 to 12 directors. Right now we have 9 directors that are on the American Board. And we all have experience in the workplace and diverse backgrounds in perfusion that we bring to the table. So what we do, we strive to develop and maintain a quality standard that promotes safety and the protection of the public. These standards include the attainment and the enhancement of knowledge, skills, and general overall ethical professional conduct. The implementation and administration of the credentialing process is really the standards that we choose to upstand and hold. We want to continue to stimulate education for everybody that's holding the certification CCP credential. Our position on certification is something that involves ECMO, VAD, autotransfusion, blood component therapies, pediatric perfusion, adult perfusion, really the gamut that's all outlined in the ACPE credentials and ACPE guidelines and credentials that you can look on the website to see the background and what is covered with the American Board. The American Board's position is that all CCPs have acquired knowledge and have demonstrated through the certification process a valid level of knowledge in all of these areas. The current directors that are all listed here, 9 of us, and we just elected a new director, Bill Riley, to the board, rotated off Pat French, who had served 12 years. There's 9 of us that are on the board. And to drill down on where all of the certified perfusionists live across the country, it's primarily the East Coast and the central section of the United States. Now, we would like to see a wide spectrum, a diversified group, but at this point, this is where the directors are all placed across the country. A little bit about the demographics of the board. It's 9 members. There's secondary backgrounds for 8 of the 9 the directors, and other allied health professions other than perfusion, which include respiratory therapy, nursing, paramedic, and biomedical engineering and med tech. All except for one are state licensed. All except for one hold a leadership position in their workplace, and all 9 are clinically active. Degrees are mixed: 3 bachelor degrees, 5 masters, 1 doctoral, and there's a solid mix of pediatric and adult clinical perfusion. 4 of the 9 have a strong background in pediatric perfusion. And if we add up the cumulative years of experience as CCPs, at this point it adds up to 171 years. So I wanted to bring this to you, that we have a lot that we bring to the table when we deliberate over how we develop and continue to make the measure that we provide for the community strong. We're all performing clinical cases. I listed a number of what we're involved in as board members. This is something that when we're deliberating and we're discussing, we bring a lot of this information to the table, which is important. Our service over the last 12 years, I was kind of curious about this to see what time served as a director on the American board. And the earlier years, from 2004 up, there were more than 9 members on the American board. The numbers were 10 or 11. So the number of years of experience serving as directors kind of peaked, and then it kind of fluctuates up and down. But I'm interested in monitoring this, because not only as a group what we bring to the table from our workplaces, but when we're together, what experience do we have working on the measure that we provide for the community of perfusion. So how we all became directors and how you can become a director is it's a minimum of 5 years experience as a certified perfusionist. You're either nominated by yourself or someone else, another CCP, and you submit a CV that details your education, your professional work experience, research, presentations, publications, and that information is all reviewed, and we elect a director based on the number that we set each year. We ask that the directors that serve sign a commitment form that they're able to attend 3 meetings a year. And this is a point that sometimes scares folks off, and I know that it really caused some caution for me when I wanted to serve as on the American board, and that is that there's 3 business meetings in the summer workshop meeting. There's a spring, a fall, and then the summer meeting, and that encompasses a lot of time that you're away from the workplace. So that you have to have the sponsorship of your workplace and the personal commitment to volunteer in the perfusion community to do this. So what we do as directors, that we contribute to the perfusion profession by creating this measure. And we network with other CCPs while we're doing this, and we learn more about the perfusion profession as a whole, and really it expands our horizons. That's why it's really good to be a director and to look to serve in this position. And who we collaborate with, which is not unlike AMSEC. I know earlier in the week I saw a slide or two that was up, all the different organizations that AMSEC sits at the table with. The American board is not any different. We sit at the table with the Academy, AMSEC, the Perfusion Directors Council, the Canadian Perfusion Society, ELSO, CAHAP, ACPE, and this is all in tune with the 17 states that have licensure that look to the American board for support qualifying. The big thing is these 17 states look to the CCP as the gold standard when they set up licensure, and they continue to sustain that credential. We have 3 executive directors that work for the American board, Beth, Steve, and Casey, and they're our statisticians. They're the American board directors are responsible for the content of the measure that we provide for the community. The executive directors lead us down the path so that we're using that information correctly, and we're creating a measure that's valid and reliable. There's some secretaries that are in the office that probably is your first contact when you call the national office. And The feedback that I get, it's usually very positive when folks call the office to get information about the booklet of information or any insight. And please know that any information that you send to the American Board is deliberated by all the directors. We look at everything that goes through the national office and we talk about it. You probably have noticed, and I know growing up, I can remember 30 years ago when I was sending the paperwork into Hattiesburg, I had no idea where Hattiesburg was, and in Mississippi. But recently, down in the corner of, see where my mouse is, right here, this was the national office, and there was a hurricane down in Hattiesburg. This was an opportunity after this hurricane that they moved the national office, kept it in Hattiesburg, but they moved to a new site. So it's always nice to have a picture attached to it where your American Board is located. The 12-year history of the Board, something that's put out in the newsletter every year that you get, the annual report. It's all the information about how the candidates do on the two different exams and the number of certified perfusionists that are out there and how it's increasing. It's actually increasing about, on average, over the last 12 years, about 1.3%. It's going up each year. So we do have folks that retire off, that lose their certification for whatever reason, but the number over the years continues to just climb. Not by a lot, but it's climbing. It's certainly not going down, and it has not been affected by licensure. In fact, I think the American Board is strong, and we support licensure. The states that are licensed are all listed here. This is the states that the American Board has been asked to provide information for and with, which it's a lot of work that the office does at no charge, what I'm told. The American Board examination process is composed of two exams, the PBSE and the CAPE. And each exam is about 220 questions in length, and the candidates are given these exams. They have 4 hours to complete them. It's all been computer-based testing since 2007. It's all advertised on our website as far as when the exams are given twice a year. We changed over to using Prometric, and we've had good success with that. We get a lot of information and feedback from Prometric as far as what the candidate's experience is when they go through that testing center. We follow up on anything that comes across in a negative way, and we also follow up on positive feedback. The knowledge base is any number of these areas that we test on. And as our profession changes, the ACPE guidelines, they change and we flow with that so that we have a measure that's in parity with what the community of perfusion is working with. The knowledge base is validated every 5 to 7 years, and if you've participated in this survey and gone through the process, there are points, continuing education points that are accredited to it. And it's a relatively long survey, but we have shortened it over the years to try to make it a little bit easier to go through. But it's a very important function that we need to participate in as certified perfusionists. This validation is looking at the importance of all the different areas that we're involved in with perfusion, and you rate them. An example would be this first one that's on here, and it might be a little small for you to see. It's ACTs. We would all gather that knowing about ACTs, it's important for us to know that. So you could see on the scaling that it's scaled rather high. If for some reason there's an area in this knowledge base that is not important for the community of perfusion, then the perfusionist as a whole would judge this at a lower rate, and then we would triage whether or not that's something that we would continue to test on. Same thing falls into the usage if it's used, and all these different items are also looked at. So I'd like to think of it, it's not an arduous process, but it's a necessary process that our peers need to be involved in. And the practice exam was something that we implemented a number of years ago, and in 2008. The questions are similar in format and content to the actual exam that the candidates would take for the PBSE and the CAPE. And we encourage all candidates to log in and use this tool because it gets them in the practice, in the mode of using a computer screen and taking the exam, so when they go to the Prometric site, they know exactly what the experience will be. The results are given to the examinee by category, and they're not recorded or evaluated by the American Board. So it's more of a learning tool for the candidate before they go through the process. And item analysis, what we do at the examination development meetings in the summertime, and this overflows into some of the spring and the fall meetings, we hold primarily in the summertime. We review all of the questions on the measure, both of those, the PBSC and the CAPE, for reliability, validity, relevancy, and currency for each of the items. This is an arduous process, but it's necessary. And I can tell you, when I first got on the board and I started doing this, I didn't know what to expect, but the other directors worked me in a direction so I learned more about it. And it really is a cool process. It's a long day, and it's a lot of work, but to create a measure that's a very reliable measure takes a lot of work, but it's really worth it. I feel that it really affects patient care in the long run. What this involves is, sitting in a boardroom around a PowerPoint screen and reviewing the questions, how they're written, and the anatomy. And what I want to do is just walk you through a question or two to show you what we do, so you have an idea of what happens when you're developing test questions and what happens with it. When we put a question up, we do two basic things with it. We want to judge the taxonomy level. We want to look at the question, and you just went through the Perfusion Bowl and you looked at some of the questions. And you want to think, when a question is asked of a candidate, how deep are you going with the information? You ask someone, what's a normal ACT while on cardiopulmonary bypass? And if your thought is that you want it to be 480 seconds, that's really something that's a knowledge or a comprehension. It's pretty basic. You do need to know what an ACT is. You do need to know what an extended time is. But the more information you need to apply gets you deeper into this process. So the deeper the question, I'd like to think it's a better question. And you can dig deeper into a candidate's mind on what they know and what they don't know. And then we rate it by an Ebel rating score, and it's a question. Do you think that it's important that you know a normal ACT and an ACT that's been affected by heparin? And is that something easy, moderate, or hard? So we judge the question based on this, that is it essential that you know this, and is it easy? And this rating score is used, and the statisticians use this to judge each question and what the cutoff score is going to be. So the harder the number of questions, the tougher the test, or the easier the questions, it changes what the cutoff score is going to be. But it's all statistics and how that all blends together. So here's a question that we could just go through real quick is, continuous warm blood cardioplegia increases oxygen delivery, decreased myocardial oxygen consumption. You can see how the question reads if it's grammatically correct and how we can change it. We can break down the question that what is asked is the stem, and then the distractors and how you judge the distractors. You can break the anatomy up of the question to say, is it a good stem? Are all of the distractors good? And it really starts to dissect each question, and if there's a problem with the question, what part needs to be changed or modified. And that's the part that I found a lot of interest in, that just the grammar, which I'm from Pittsburgh, so you know that I need to speak better. You can change the grammar of the question so that it sounds better and you're not tricking the candidate. You're trying to elicit the information you want to get from them. You can write it better, and then what we do is we look at it statistically to see how the distractors and the stem all work together. Now, all this number, which I'm not going to go into this information right here, but this is where we look to the support of the executive directors to lead us down the path as to whether or not the question is a good question or a bad question. Should we throw the question out, or should we just rework the question so that there possibly could be one distractor because of the answers the candidates pick that tell us that if we change a distractor, we can make the question stronger. Then we can look at the history of when the question was used and how it behaves with that cohort of candidates that take this exam. The other thing that's important is every question is ideally referenced with 2 books, 2 literatures. We try not to use articles, we try to use books so that everything has a paper trail behind it. And I had the opportunity to speak with a big group of perfusion students that attend this meeting, which is really something. And we went over a lot of this information. I hope that that will be helpful to them when they're studying and preparing for this exam. So the third leg of the stool that I wanted to go over was some recertification highlights, some things that we're doing, some updates that we're doing. We, over the last year, we changed the probation to conditional certification. That's all outlined in the booklet of information. And we provide an extended leave, which is I think is a really good thing that's needed for any number of things: military leave, sickness, starting families, really anything that would have a need to extend your certification so that you would have a pathway back in. Category 1 CEUs are awarded for webinars. Category 1 CEUs now are awarded with high-fidelity perfusion simulation that's attached with didactic lectures. Our online filing system has been enhanced that I'll go over a little bit more in detail. And Category 1 CEUs are awarded for clinical instructors. We bumped that up so that it's more of a stimulus to get involved with perfusion schools. The other thing that I believe is a good thing for the community is when we retire, starting this year, after 20 years of service as a CCP, you can file for the emeritus status, which is very nice. I think having your name listed in the booklet of information on the website, certificate testing to that time spent in the profession, and receiving all of the information that we get from the American Board is a good thing. And current and future plans for the Board is collaborating with a lot of the different professional organizations, educational organizations, to move in a direction of understanding more about high-fidelity perfusion simulation. We hold a liaison panel meeting every year where the American Board hosts, I like to call it all the heads of the families. We get the Academy, AMSEC, program directors, ELSA, all together, and we want to hear if there's anything from those different organizations that affect the American Board. And at this last meeting, one of the overwhelming topics was perfusion simulation. And we're very interested in that. We'd like to learn more about it. We want to see how that can be infused into the certification and recertification process. So I would like to think that we're very open-minded about that for the future. A few things with electronic enhancements on the online filing system. We have a section in it that you can download your cases automatically so that you don't have to plug them in. And we'd like to go out and call on a lot of the manufacturers that have computer-generated systems to see how we can get them involved in making it available to download that information and learn more about everybody's clinical experience that's documented on the website, through the website. There's a frequently asked section that's in the American Board website that may be of help for commonly asked questions. And we're asking that, that when you get onto the website, it's going to ask you to update your email address, just so that we can enhance communication electronically. So that's something new that you will see. And beginning this year, and the national office will help the few that still turn in their annual certification, recertification paperwork through the U.S. mail. We're going to ask that you do that all online. So that's going to be a change for some of the folks. But when we looked at how often that's being used, it's an overriding number of people that are sending it electronically. So we hope that it doesn't affect too many. We're hopeful that that will enhance communication and give us an opportunity to infuse a survey in that website that's in conjunction with a lot of the educational organizations so we can take that information back. That was some feedback that we got at a liaison panel meeting or two ago, and we want to try to work on that. so that it's an ongoing process. Now, this isn't something you should look on your apps right now for, because it's not up and running, but we're in the process of getting an app, an American board app, that will make it easier for you to access the booklet of information, to get in and put your cases in, and hopefully a calendar that will document when events like this are occurring and when they've been approved for different category points. So we're excited about that. And goals for the future really are, three big ones, and they kind of follow suit with what I just reviewed, and that is a simulation. We really want to engage the community of perfusion, the public, and it creates a tone, an environment of competency that we all have to do the heavy lifting. But as like AMSEC University, when I looked at everything that AMSEC University is doing, it's providing education. Attending meetings like this really provide a lot of education, and simulation is really going down that path. And all this education and affords us an opportunity that we can really focus on that second C. And we really want to move in that direction. We want to continue to move in that direction. And IT information, it may help us dig deeper into clinical depth of what everybody's experiences are, to learn more about that, and to survey our colleagues in the perfusion community to find out what we're doing and how we can take that information back and use it when we deliberate in our meetings. And then value-added services, the extended leave, licensure support, and educational support. We want to continue to grow in that area and do as much as we can. So in summary, all the changes that we're making really only make the CCP credential that we all hold stronger. And that's really our major consideration. And we really look for input from the perfusion community for the credentialing process, so that when we all have that CCP, we know that it's a great thing to have, something that worldwide it's looked at. Thank you.